All right, guys. So now this is a reintroduction to the video I posted previously. So which I will drop the link in the description box of this particular upload. Now I was trying to tell you guys or share with you guys the formulas I use in my sewing career, and I remembered I made mention of three particular aspects. First, in the first video, which I said that the crouch has its own formula. Now, the formula you use for a particular measurement of a client does not work for everybody, right? So, like for example, if you have a client of hips of 40 and you worked out a crouch of 10, for example, and you're not meant to use that 10 for hip of 42, 44, 43, and so on and so forth. Every measurement has its own crouch depth. So how do we go about it? Now, I said that there are other methods out there, but I want to share with you the one I use and how I use it and how it is working for me. It has been working for me. So now, like I was saying, the crouch has different formulas, but the one I'm going to show you now is what I use. So which I use the hips of my clients divided by 4, right? Which can still be written as hips over 4. Do you get? Now, what does this imply? This implies that whatever measurement I have for my client's hips, I will divide it by 4, right? Now, sorry. Now, if I am working with this, I have some considerations I make, and that consideration is when I have a tall client, that's a tall client, I will use the whole answer I got here for the crouch. But when I have a short person, might not have from the value I have here. So how do I mean? For example, let me say I have two clients, client A, and client B, right? Client B. Now, client A, his hips is 40. Client A, his hips is 48, and then let's take the length of trouser to be 36, right? Or anything less than 39 can work here. And let's take client B, his hips to be 748, but the length of trouser, let's take it to be 40 or 39 and above. Do you understand? Now, this simply implies that in as much as the both client has the same hip, you're not going to use the formula you use for this one to get the two crouch for this individual client. So in such case, what do you do here? For the client A, 48 over 4, you have to minus half from the answer to get a lesser value, which will give you 12 minus half, which is 11 and half. So 11 and half is a crouch for this client A that has a hip of 48 and length that is less than 39 inches and below. 11 and half crouch will work for them. Now, for the client B, his hips is 48. So 48 divided by 4, right, will give you 12. So 12 is the crouch for this client B because his length of trouser is above 39 inches and above, right? So this will work for every person, right? So now there are some exceptions as well in this whole formula. If you happen to get an extra large client whose hips is around, let's say 59, 60 and above, now you're not going to make use of this formula anymore. You are going to improvise by using other possible formulas out there to work out the crouch. And what are those formulas? The next one is by measurement of the crouch, by upright sitting position, and then length of the trouser over 4. So these are three other methods you can use to calculate the crouch of your client, right? So having known this, now I think I'm done with this. This was for both adult and children. Then for the crouch of a lady, a female, I know most of my followers are female, So they also want to learn how to get it. There are other methods out there, like I do say, but the one I use is the one I'm trying to show you. So I use hips over 4 minus 1 constant, right? Now, a lady's crouch, you will divide the hip by 4 and minus 1. This will give you a female crouch. It works for every female, whether short or tall. It gives you that perfect crouch derivation. So having done this, now let's get to the armhole. So the armhole is the next step, or the next thing we are going to work on now. Next thing we are going to work on is our armhole. Now armhole has 3 different sleeves. You know, when you talk of armhole, you are talking of sleeves. Now sleeve, we have short sleeve, we have 3/4 sleeve, and we have long sleeve, right? Now these sleeves has their own unique armhole that will suit or work for every chest values or measurement. So now the first formula for the short sleeve, we have a formula of chest over 4. The formula for short sleeve, right? So whenever you are working with short sleeve, you divide the chest by 4 and use the answer here for your armhole. Now, the number 2 is 3/4 sleeve, 3/4 sleeves, and long sleeve. Now, bear in mind that these 2 sleeves are being seen as one, like they are being handled as one. So how do you do it? You have to divide the chest over 4 minus 1. So this is the constant formula to get the armhole for the 3/4 sleeve and the long sleeve as well. So now, having known the formula for armhole, like I said, there are other methods as well. These methods can come in when you have an extra large chest measurement, a chest line from, like, let's say 55, 60, right? You have to improvise by using another method, which is a shoulder over 2, right? Or you measure the person's armhole to get the actual armhole of that particular client. So having said this, now the next I am trying to explain is the neck. Now the neckline. The neck has a formula. You know, I have met several people who say they assume neckline measurements and it works for them. Assumptions is the key to failure, because you don't assume when there is a distinctive way or approach or a direct manner which you can use to solve a problem, and you are assuming, right? So assumption is a root of failures. So now, if you want to know how to calculate your neckline, you have to stop assuming, and you have to, work it out. So how then do you do it? Now, they have a formula, n over 6 minus 0.3. This will serve you for the width of your neckline. Then for the depth, n over 6 minus 0.3 plus half equals to depth. So how do you work this out? This n is a variable, which means whatever neck measurement you have, divide by 6. You have to minus 0.3 from it to get the width. Then for the depth, you have to divide the neck by 6, minus 0.3, add half to it to get your depth. So this serves you for your neckline. So I hope it's clear on the board. You can cram it, use it. It works for everybody, both for adults, for kids, for female, for men, everything. As long as your neckline measurement is perfectly measured. Now, moving on some other tricks I use. Now, in sewing as a whole, if you have a particular method of working, you need to be jotting the steps down for you to know the ones that are working for you and the ones that doesn't work for you. So anyone that works for you, you mark it good. Like when you use it repeatedly, you know that this method is working and you are going to repeat using them often and often, right? So now, the formulas I have shown you are what I use. I'm not trying to discredit any other person out there or any other method out there. I'm trying to show you what I use. So if you want to try it out, I will encourage you to try it out and make sure you use it exactly the way I use it so that you will have the same result like I do. So the next thing I want to talk about is the neckline of shirts. Now, if you observe, I am putting on a shirt this way, and my neckline and my button is perfectly covered, just like this, right? And the button is covered just like this. And then this button now, my neck is able to move freely without, any obstruction or being too tight on me. So this is how the neck is sitting properly on my neck. The back is well fitted, the front is well fitted. I still have some space, little space to put my finger in, and it's not too tight on me. Now, and when you button your neck this way, the neckline should not gape, like dropping or move far from your body. I have seen some designers or some people that make clothes that after buttoning the neckline seems to be bigger than the neck. It's as if their neckline is now, their body is now small in a very big hole, right? So such things are not accepted in this current or modern way of sewing. So you need to have a perfect measurement. So, and the trick I use on my shirts is because whatever neck measurement I have on my chest, I will use the formula I have explained on the board to get my neckline. You get? But then I will make sure that before I place my neck, when cutting, if you fold your button allowance of your shirt, you're not meant to start applying the neck from the edge here. You are going to start from the midpoint of the folding so that you have enough allowance to button it this way, and it will lap perfectly on you. So invariably, your shirt necklines will be like 1.5 inch bigger than the usual neckline you have on your body in order to have that allowance to lap. The maximum is 2 inches and you are good to go. So let me move over to the next one. So one trick I also use is I try to maintain one particular tape in the course of my sewing. How do I mean? For example, I don't change tape often or easily. I can use one tape for like 3 months, 4 months. Now, the reason I tend to use one tape for a very long time is to make sure that all the clients I have measured with that tape, I have finished their jobs, because tape measurement varies. Because I have seen some tapes that their their calibration is not the same. Because if you use a wrong tape, if you use a particular tape to measure and you go ahead to use another tape to sew, you will notice that 2 inches in that first tape might not be the same 2 inches in the next tape. You might have like ½ inch extra or less than 2 inches. So this is just a precautionary measure that I think every tailor should adopt to make sure that they don't ruin the success of their jobs, right? So now you should make sure you use a tape for a longer period of time. Should in case you want to change, it's advisable that you try to buy almost the same tape you have been using in order to not to have any error in your tape reading, right? So now the next thing I do, I make sure that whenever I'm working, of course, I use steam iron, which I have said this in the other video, but I'm just trying to say it again. I use steam iron because steam iron has its own finishing effect. It gives clothes, unlike the normal dry cell iron. So I will suggest and encourage most of us, all of us, try and get steam iron, and make sure when you're ironing, you don't iron on top of a hard surface. You must make sure you place fabric on top. Now, in most cases, I buy the gun warden, the breast pad for female, right? Those breast pad, like ½ inch or 1 inch on. I use it as my inner tablecloth before I use fabric to cover it. it gives you that foamy or that soft effect that when you place fabric on top to iron, you hardly see shining. And I make sure as well I place fabrics on top of clothes I am ironing and before I place my iron, except your iron has what they call Teflon cover. Teflon cover is that metal cover on the surface of your iron. It's being sold differently from your iron, right? So you can buy it and use it for your ironing and it will give you a nice finishing and nice result. Then the next I do is that I make sure I weave all my clothes. Like, weaving could be one of the challenging things most people do have. Now, even if you don't have money to buy industrial weaving, you can buy the manual weaving and place it in your shop and use it to start. Now, when you start with manual weaving, you will see that with time you will get so addicted to weaving that you cannot make a cloth without weaving. So by so doing, whenever you have the opportunity to buy an industrial weaving, you will not hesitate to buy an industrial weaving and use it for your work, right? So all of these things I am telling you are what most people will teach you in your fashion schools and in your wherever you're learning your jobs and trades. But I am here trying to teach you for free. Please do me a favor to like this video, comment, share, and let me know if you want me to drop more of the updates on how I do successfully do my jobs. So the next update I will be dropping will be on photography, how to snap your jobs and how to post them online, and the tools I use, the background that is acceptable, and the lightning pattern I used and everything. I think that should come tomorrow or thereabout. But don't forget to like this video, comment please, it's very important. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I want us to grow the channel to 100k subscribers. Thanks for being with me all through this period. See you guys in my next video. Bye bye for now.